this independent review of ACC because of concerns of declining rehabilitation rates and increasing costs. And so what's the government's answer? Is to put up the levies. I thought that seemed a bit cheeky.
Look, the minister's actually been really clear about this. We've seen a decreasing rehabilitation rate. And to put it an example, under the last government, it went from 66% rehabilitation at 10 weeks down to 55. And of course, that actually has financial implications for ACC. So the minister's been really clear. Actually, increasing the levy is the last thing that ACC should be. It should not be the default action. So it's about actually kind of having a review to make sure that they're actually being efficiently as possible, because our key goal is actually to increase the rehabilitation of Kiwis who have had accidents and of whatever nature. So that's really what's happening. We can have the best outcome for New Zealanders.
Reuben, I'm always a bit iffy about independent reviews because they're never really all that independent. It's always some former MP or some former top police commissioner that comes along and says, here's how you can do things better, and nothing really changes. Am I being too cynical?
Look, from my position, I'd say no. But the other thing is that independent reviews that happen really quickly with swift appointments of the independent reviewer probably less likely to pass the sniff test.
So who's going to be, do we know who's going to be doing this review?
No,
but it's starting before Christmas, isn't it?
There's regular reviews of ACC, so this is a regular review of ACC. And once again, it's about making sure we have better rehabilitation outcomes for all New Zealanders.
I think many people would agree that, well, I'm not sure if many people would agree, but a lot of people obviously come to me and say they don't feel like they're getting a fair deal from ACC, but I suppose it's that fine balancing act between how much money somebody should get and how much money they need to get, right, Hamish?
Look, I think the ACC does a really good job. I appreciate there's a lot of challenges with the system, and there's a lot of people that have really struggled to get support through ACC. But if you look at the impact that it's actually had on our healthcare system, I think it's actually been a really good institution. And we've got to make sure that it's working as efficiently as possible.
Reuben, do you have many of your constituents coming to you with concerns about the way the ACC system is currently running?
Yeah, look, I do have the odd query or the odd case that comes through, but probably the thing I think that's important that often gets lost in the ACC conversation is that ACC, it's an amazing system, and it also has a really good opportunity to provide prevention, education, resources to reduce injuries, to reduce harm, to reduce the need for people to come into the ACC at the kind of injury end. And some of those services have been cut, which I think is a real shame. That's been cuts to fall prevention. It's been cuts to preventing sexual violence. Some of these things. If ACC can get in at the front end and actually ensure that we're creating a safer society, a safer community for people to live and work in, then we're less likely to see the costs at the other end continue to grow as they have.
Hamish, I saw you nodding your head there. What's wrong with that?
I'm shaking my head, not nodding my head. Look, ACC is, and that's really one of the reviews, is to make sure that actually the spending does actually meet those goals. Yes, prevention is very important. Reuben's talking about cuts. There has been no cuts to ACC, and it's about making sure that we can have really good rehabilitation. We saw under the previous government that rates of rehabilitation absolutely plummeted. And so it's about actually restoring that, because that has a huge impact on the financial viability of ACC. If we look at healthcare systems around the world, we don't want to go down the American model where there's suing, insurance companies are involved. So I actually think ACC actually does a really good job in New Zealand, and it's actually a key cornerstone of our healthcare system.
I want to move on. The Christchurch City Council has chosen bird names for the Performing Arts Precinct. This does seem a bit tokenism, really, doesn't it? Given there are many wonderful performing artists in this city that have gone before us. In fact, Reuben, you used to be in the performing arts sector in some respects with Whitebait Television. I was just thinking the other day, we should have had possibly, Whitebait Lane or What Now Lane, I was thinking, or dare I say it, Jason Gunn Lane. These types of people have been so instrumental in our history, or even like, I don't know if you probably did Studio 4 Lane, then the old Gloucester Street building there. I was just thinking this could have been a bit more sentimental than getting a Māori culture report that says performing arts is important to us. It just seems a bit there. Thoughts, Reuben?
Look, I actually really like the names that were chosen.
I like the names too. Don't get me wrong. I think that the Māori names of those birds are beautiful, and they're beautiful birds. But I just thought, oh, come on, we could have done something that sort of honours some of our performing artists. I know I'll probably get called a racist for that, but it's nothing to do with that. It's just, come on, we've got so many cool performing artists that have gone before us,
Yeah, we do. I think there's a lot of opportunity for other features of new parts of our city to carry their names and their titles and that history as well. And I think we'll see that with the likes of the Court Theatre when it comes online. There's always ways to celebrate our history and particularly our performing arts history through making sure some of those legacy characters and personalities particularly from Christchurch's past are celebrated. I've always really liked the idea of a series of statues that could go in the square because there's been a few different people who've stood on those stairs over the years, and it would be quite nice to be able to preserve and pay homage to them. But that would be more about something that has good context rather than just a name on a street sign.
I think we should do something like Jason Gunn Crescent.
It is for streets around kind of the arts precinct. So I actually think celebrating some of our great artists will be good. I think we do have a strong history in it. On the flip side, I can see both arguments. Since it's arts, Shakespeare once said, "What a rose by any other name smells just as sweet." So I suppose it does come down to the local government, really. And so if people do have concerns, that they should be reaching out to their councillors to talk about it.
Maybe I'm just bitter there's no Lynch Lane,
Yeah.
Should we have that? Not the best kind of name, isn't it, in all circumstances? I want to move on to this Fairies debacle. And I've got to be honest with you, I was bored reading it because it did seem like it was an announcement of an announcement. So what we've got now is the government is going to create a Schedule A4, or 4A, I should say, Crown company to procure 2 new ferries. It sounds like Regenerate Christchurch all over again. It's creating an industry for the sake of it. What's wrong with the minister giving somebody a call and saying, hey, we need 2 ferries? There we go, done. Hamish.
No, look, this project has been a disaster from the word go. Originally, the costs were $775 million, blew out to 1 point something billion, then 3 billion. Then we saw advice this week that it was up to 4 billion. So the thing is, we can't just keep on writing checks. Yes, we do need a reliable ferry service, and I think that's particularly important for us in the South Island. But we can't just kind of throw cash out. And what we saw is the project really has been mismanaged, and we've seen this kind of quite widespread around the number of projects under the previous government. There wasn't realistic planning. We need to kind of emphasise on really thorough initial assessments and planning to make sure that we just don't have these overly optimistic projections. And so that's what we're doing, make sure we're coming back. We've committed to having new ferries by 2029.
Is it a bit of a backtrack in some respects, though? Because first of all, it was a no-go. Now it's like, well, we might try and see what we can do. I just wonder whether National runs the risk of making all these massive cuts, then eventually coming back saying, oh, actually, we'll have another rethink, and maybe that's not the best look politically.
No, it's not backtrack. We've always been supportive of new ferries. Look, we have the Blue Bridge, which has been running successfully without taxpayers' money for a number of years. And so we're making sure that we can get involvement of the private sector as well. We've got open to kind of suggestions from the private sector, but we are committed to having some new ferries by 2029 because we recognise that we need a secure and reliable link between the two islands.
Reuben, is that a fair assessment?
I think it would be unsurprising that I'm disagreeing with that. I think the announcement this week was we were told we'd get an announcement before Christmas. All we got told was we can't tell you how much it is or what it is, but it will happen at some point in the future. I think what we also got is confirmation that those 2 text messages that were sent to cancel the current order are probably the most expensive text messages that have ever been sent, potentially in the history of the world.
Now, look, if
There's
we
a soundbite I can use.
if we continue going down the line, we'll be on the hook for $4 billion at a time when the spending has been out of control. That is just not acceptable. And yes, some of the information about the new ferries is commercially sensitive, and so it's not going to be released. You don't release how much you're going to spend when you go to buy something, and that's exactly what we're doing here. We're making sure that commercially sensitive things remain quiet.
Okay, but if you're wanting to talk about best practice commercial negotiations, you can't tell me that sending 2 text messages to cancel a $100 of million ferry order is commercially appropriate.
I like how you put it as a couple of $100 million ferries. The project ended up going to cost $4 billion. So I think it's very important that actually we get those costs under control. Once again, it's been another project which there was no leadership and has blown out.
So are you suggesting then that the text messages were even more expensive, Hamish, which would make that text message sending to cancel the contract an even more irresponsible thing to do?
I am struggling to see the logic there, Reuben. The project was going to end up costing $4 billion, so we said no, that we're not going to expend any more money.
Right, want to move on just briefly. You could run a freight truck through that delay, unless it was the audio delay system. Just finally, a story earlier this week, the Nurses Council is being criticised by nurses and the Health Minister following its new guidelines for nurses. If you want to register or enrol now, you have to show how colonisation has been bad in the health sector. I mean, this is pushing an ideological dream on nurses, isn't it, Hamish?
Look, I think we've been very clear. We need a clinically and culturally competent workforce.
Sure.
But when it comes to these things, you do have to ask the question, does this improve the quality of our healthcare? We've kind of got big questions about that. And the other question you got to ask, is this creating barriers for people getting into the nursing sector? And we would say probably it is.
I mean, let's be honest, cultural competency courses are nothing new. They've been around for decades in this country, particularly with nurses. But I can't help but think, Reuben, that question has irritated some nurses because it seems trendy at the moment. It is trendy to say all the bad things about colonisation at the moment. It's a culture war that's been imported from America.
Oh, look, I mean, I think it's really important to have a good understanding of the context in which you're operating in any role or profession. And so I think for nurses and anyone working in the health sector to be able to have a really good understanding of different cultural, different religious, different belief systems that are in our community, I can't see that doing any harm.
Sure. But having to write essays about why colonisation is bad, is that just a bridge too far, do you think?
Look, I think it's an important part of our history, and I think having a deeper understanding across all sectors in New Zealand is probably a good thing.